critical services. And I'm just now seeing, apparently, my encoder has dropped again. The internet is finicky in this part of my neighborhood for whatever reason, so I appreciate everybody who does jump back into the live stream, but that's why we record these things locally. But anyways, back to the governor's news release. It says Cook County's already committed more than $100 million in the current fiscal 24 budget for the new arrivals and related costs, primarily for health care, and the president will work with Cook County commissioners to commit $70 million additional dollars. And again, this is just the county and the state. So the city had yet to be part of this joint announcement, and that was a big line of questioning of Mayor Brandon Johnson yesterday. So they've got, again, an additional $180 some odd million, $182 million that Governor J.B. Pritzker is expected to announce in his budget address next year. Next week he's announcing that. The budget year begins July 1st. So the budget address for the budget that begins July 1st, that's going to be Wednesday, and we'll cover that. But we know now that the governor is going to ask for an additional $182 million in state funds, and that's all part of this $250 million that the county and city have announced. So Mayor Brandon Johnson asked about this yesterday at a news conference. A variety of different questions here that the mayor's asked. Let's go ahead and hear what he had to say in response to where's the $70 million that the city apparently is going to be putting taxpayers on the hook for.
And what's needed? Does the city have plans to offer that $70 million? If so, what would that look like?
Yeah. So as you know, I've made a very strong commitment. Well, maybe you don't know. I shouldn't assume that. I've made an incredible commitment to this mission. From the first major vote that I oversaw as mayor of the city of Chicago, $51 million. That was a punt from the previous city council. And then we put another $150 million into the budget for this fiscal year, something that the previous city council did not do. They didn't budget for the last year. And then we went back again for a third time to replace government operations funds with a $95 million. On top of that, you know, we've had 35,000 plus people come to the city of Chicago seeking asylum, of which we had at one point the highest 15,000 people that the city of Chicago was solely responsible for sheltering.
So again, Mayor Johnson talking about his commitment to this mission, and the mission obviously being using tax dollars to help so-called asylum seekers get access to housing, food, medical care, education, wraparound services, which could include helping them find immigration attorneys to assist in their asylum petition. And again, these asylum petitions, you know, they're essentially on probation until they have a hearing to determine whether or not they are granted asylum. And some of the statistics show it's not a great success rate for people seeking asylum. So how all that's going to come out in the wash, we shall see. But more from Brandon Johnson yesterday on the issue of where's the $70 million coming from? Why does it constantly seem that there's conflict between the city of Chicago and the state, which, you know, Governor Pritzker's a Democrat, Brandon Johnson's a Democrat. Why is there some, kind of consternation between the two?
This is the second time that you and the governor's office seem to disagree on how things are going to play out to care for the situation. This time specifically, are you saying the governor's staff is lying when they say you committed to $70 million? It's very confusing to figure out why would they say after multiple meetings the city committed to $70 million and now the city says no.
Well, I don't know where the disagreement really exists here. The commitment to the mission is what we're all in agreement with. And what I've said repeatedly is that there's an entire operation that must be considered here. No one in this city, let's make it broader, no one in the state of Illinois, in this country, is questioning Mayor Brandon Johnson's commitment to this mission. No one is. 28 shelters, 5,700 children that we're educating. 3 times before the city council to get the resources that were needed to make sure that we are fulfilling this mission. Health screenings, collaborating with mayors around the region and the country, passing an ordinance that other states are now modeling so that we can bring some structure. to this operation. So I'm committed to this mission as I've been. And I'm grateful that we have partners at the state level and the county level who are also committed to this mission. And it's a mission of care, as well as a mission that requires a real holistic response to this crisis. And I'm grateful that we have two leaders at the state and the county level that are committed to it as well.
So, not really answering where's the $70 million going to come from? How does this play out? And as far as holding people accountable for where these contracts go, who's getting the money, is it inflated costs? I mean, we've seen stories about the inflated cost of nursing contracts when it comes to the migrant situation. We've heard about the growing costs of housing, the conditions of housing, these temporary shelters and such. So clearly, a lot more of your tax dollars here in the state of Illinois are going to go to this issue. Whether or not there's actually going to be any federal response, maybe some kind of bailout for cities. However, Congress, ultimately plays out whatever piece of legislation advances. All of this clearly is going to come to a head as it continues to mount. So we'll track that. Again, the governor is going to give his budget address on Wednesday. He's already looking at $180+ billion that he's going to announce, in addition to tens of millions, I should say, millions, not billions, millions, $180+ million that the governor's going to announce as part of his budget for the migrant crisis. In addition to county funds, but $70 million from the city, where's that going to come from? The city's already got, among the highest taxpayer burden of all major cities, let alone Illinois' major taxpayer burden for all the debt that there is. So how do you stack even more on top of this? And even with the state, there's a lot of other priorities. Funding priorities. And if you're going to be throwing $180+ million more at the migrant crisis, well, what program are you going to cut to make up for that? Or are we just going to see a can kicked down the road until all of a sudden we need to say, oh no, supplemental appropriation, but we need more money, got to raise taxes somewhere, right? So we'll watch that as it all comes together. It is Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I appreciate those jumping back into the live stream after apparently the live stream dropped for a bit and then came back. Listen, I don't know what to do. I'm going to have to spend like 5 hours on the internet service provider's helpline to figure that out. But appreciate you guys and your patience with me here as I broadcast from my home studio. All right, stay tuned. More coming up here with Bishop on Air. ShotSpotter in the city of Chicago is going to go away after the August Democratic National Convention in Chicago and sometime, after the peak of summer. So what's going to happen with ShotSpotter after that? Of course, the technology meant to help police and law enforcement track where shots are coming from. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, he announced before he was elected that he was going to get rid of the ShotSpotter technology, and then after he took office earlier this year, kind of wavered on that a bit, and then it was announced earlier this week that he is ending the contract. So what's going to happen here? Of course, here's Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, just a short clip of him talking about how nobody cares about public safety more than he does.
I don't know if there's anyone that spends more time thinking about public safety than I do.
So more on what the mayor had to say yesterday during a Q&A with the media. He was asked about this in a variety of different ways, especially with the consideration that ShotSpotter is willing to renegotiate. And you've got a variety of headlines here where, for instance, Tamon Bradley on X reporter out of Chicago. He says that new ShotSpotter statement, it sounds like sound thinking's holding firm, wanting a 1-year extension of their contract with the city rather than a short extension through September 22nd, as Mayor Johnson apparently is pushing for. So he shares that statement from ShotSpotter. But let's go ahead and hear what Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson had to say on this question of, what's going to happen with ShotSpotter? When exactly is it going to go away? Today's the day that they're ending that contract. But is it going to be in place for the next 6 months? Is it going to be in place because of Chicago violence during the summer? Is it going to be in place heading up to the DNC? How exactly do we have public safety in Chicago where you can actually go after bad actors? Again, here's Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson yesterday.
So we've maintained a very clear presentation about what our intentions are, while also making sure that we're very thoughtful with the partner who has been a part of this infrastructure for the last 5 years. But the most important thing is, I don't know if there's anyone that spends more time thinking about public safety than I do. Now, there are other mayors that have been in this position before. I would argue that they had the same level of attention. But my approach has been very consistently that we have to invest in people. And that's what I've done. And that's what I will continue to do.
So investing in people is his approach. Sure, there's some evidence to suggest you give people a step, they'll take it, and hopefully the next step they could take themselves, right? And you kind of help people lift themselves up by their bootstraps, right? That's a long-term goal. But in the short term, you've got shootings that are happening. You've got people being shot, children being shot and killed in Chicago. The headlines sometimes are just so grim, it's hard to even read just the headline. But how do you expect to go after the immediacy of crime if you don't have these tools that are in place? More from Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson.
So the company is willing to negotiate an extension.
Listen, I've been clear from the very beginning
Okay.
of what I've committed to.
So are you doing it this way because you're concerned about the violence over the summer?
No.
Waiting 6
I'm
months.
doing it this way because this is the right way to do it. Now, if you're asking me if I'm concerned about violence as a whole, whether it's the summertime or the wintertime, I don't pick seasons when I'm concerned about violence.
An interesting statement there. Here's more from the mayor, just to kind of wrap up some of the Q&A that was all about ShotSpotter yesterday in that wide-ranging Q&A that the mayor had.
Call it a very effective tool. So were they part of your decision
Chicago
to
Police.
end ShotSpotter?
I've been in conversations with everyone. I speak to the superintendent and his department. We sit down every week. I speak to the superintendent on a regular basis. So again, I've been very clear from the very beginning, and we're going to continue to hold to the commitment that I've made.
So again, the commitment he made was to get rid of ShotSpotter, and that apparently is where he is going to go with all of this. All right, it's Bishop on Air, and that's the latest when it comes to the ShotSpotter technology in the city of Chicago. And yesterday we took your calls on that. And if you want to see that segment, you can check out the Bishop on Air YouTube channel, and make sure that you join us each and every weekday morning here as we try to give you some of the latest that's happening, things that you may want to know about. All right, so stay tuned as always with Bishop on Air. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and stay tuned. More to come. It's Friday, which means let's go ahead and open things up a bit. If you're still sticking around, I'm still sticking around with you. I'd love to know what the weather looks like in your neck of the woods. We started getting snow about, 6 o'clock, started coming down a little bit. Now it's just stacking and stacking and stacking, and we've got a lot of snow coming here in central Illinois. It's interesting, if you look at the prediction map, central Illinois is getting the most of it. Great. Which is fine. My wife did text me earlier. She's on her way to work, and she said that I-55 northbound is just, it's a bad situation. All right, head on over to Discord, where we've got people pouring into the open line for Friday. So your calls here with Bishop on air. I think I like this. This Discord functionality seems to work pretty well. And if you're familiar with how Discord works, just go and check out bishoponair.com. Click on the Discord link, or you can click on the Discord link at the bottom of this live presentation. Which, by the way, again, just to reiterate, you can only sound off live. All right, there's no way to do it after the show when we're live to tape. So if you want to sound off, the best way to do it is to get into the Discord server where you can hear me, and then we can communicate. I see Joseph is in there. I'm going to see if he wants to speak, inviting him in. Joseph, looks like he may have ducked out. But Randy, let's go ahead and try to pull you up here, and we'll get you going. So, Randy, you are now invited to speak in the staging area. So go ahead and hop on in here, and let's hear your thoughts. What's going on? Happy Friday.
Well, happy Friday to you too, Greg. I really don't. I've just jumped into here. I pretty much had a wife in the hospital for the last 3 days.
Oh no, sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, she all of a sudden had blood sugar of 452, so we're trying to get that under control. So
right on. Well,
go ahead with somebody else, Greg.
Right on. No sweat. Well, hey, Randy, we're all thinking of you guys. All right. I don't know you personally, but not a fun situation at all. So definitely be by your wife's side and all of that. Appreciate that. All right. Let's see if George wants to speak. Inviting George to chime in here, and let's go ahead and hear it. George, what's up? Says you're muted. Think you got to unmute yourself, and then we'll have you on.
Hey, Bishop. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Did I get your name right, or